The table is set for Thanksgiving. Hi, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you two classic Thanksgiving centerpieces. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Katherine Bergman and I'm a florist with over 30 years experience designing weddings and events, sharing all things floral with you each week. Today we're going to make two classic Thanksgiving centerpieces. So let's get started. The first centerpiece I'm going to show you today is the classic long, low, cascading centerpiece featuring candles. Perfect for a long rectangular dining table for Thanksgiving or whatever holiday. I want to show you this technique so you can change up the flowers for different occasions. You could definitely do this kind of centerpiece for your Christmas dinner, and today we're going to use fall flowers for Thanksgiving. What I have here is a long, low tray. We call this a gripper bowl. You don't obviously have to have a gripper bowl. Any watertight, low container in this shape will do. And this takes 2 bricks of Oasis floral foam. So that's what I have, and I have it taped down. Now, what we're going to use for candles are these cylinder vases. You can obviously use tapers or whatever, and we do have, I featured in my video last year, taper adapters. They're these plastic holders that go into the foam that hold a taper. But I'm going to show you how to use cylinder vases in here so that your flame is protected. Safer in the home, and it won't go out if it's windy. And so we're going to place the candle cylinders where we are ultimately going to have it at the end so that we use them as spacers, because we're going to do an arrangement around it. And I don't want the space that we need for the cylinder vases to be taken up by flowers or greenery. So you see I've placed the tall one in the middle and 2 shorter ones as far out to the edge as we can. The reason is you want to have space in between, and the arrangement is going to cascade over the side. So these will be placed kind of perfectly for the dimensions of your arrangement. I'm going to leave it on and just kind of design around it. Hopefully it's stable and doesn't fall off. Okay. And this is an exposed foam arrangement, meaning a lot of the foam is coming out of the container. Now you do have a decent size reservoir here, so this arrangement will last a few days, but it won't last as long as if you did this arrangement in a vessel where the foam is completely submerged. So this is the type of thing we do for events, not for, having it in your house for a week or two. I'm going to start with greening in, and there's going to be a lot of greening in involved because we have so much foam. I've got greenery I cut from the garden, and I've got some variegated pittosporum as well as some beautiful viburnum. I'm going to start with the variegated pittosporum. That's just going to cover the foam, and then I'm going to add the viburnum sort of as accent greenery because the viburnum has the beautiful fall colors. And so this is how you green in. And we have an assortment of gorgeous fall flowers that we're going to use as well. This is a lot of greening in. It's going to take quite a bit of time to have enough greenery in here so that you don't see the foam. Now you're going to add a lot of flowers too, so you don't have to cover every square inch. When I was a new designer, I used to obsess about greening in, every square inch until you couldn't see any foam. And then I realized when you add the flowers, you run out of foam space and you have used almost too much greenery. I mean, greenery is not free, right? When you're doing event work and doing lots and lots of arrangements, we actually buy the greenery. And greenery is getting more expensive lately. So that's all you're doing is just greening in. And we have a long stem of pittosporum like this. You don't want to waste the bottom part. You can cut it into segments like this. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and add in the viburnum. I've got the foam somewhat covered with the pittosporum, and we're going to add in some of the snowball viburnum that I love to use in the fall. And it's a different texture and shape leaf, and look at these beautiful fall colors. I'm going to use some of these longer stems as our cascading element. on the ends of our arrangement. Have it kind of cascade out. Let's do another piece on this side. This reminds me of doing arrangements for the bridal party table when I was doing a lot of weddings. This is the same technique. If you wanted to do a cascading arrangement for a wedding, like the bridal party table or a sweetheart table, same technique. So we're adding these accent greenery in here. These are this is the greenery that makes it prettier. And then the potasprum is just sort of to cover the foam. Okay. Okay, that's what I have over here. I'm going to work on this side here. And I don't want to waste any of this beautiful viburnum, so I'm using every stem, especially like these smaller leaves that are very pretty. Okay, so we got sort of a cascading shape going. Let's see. We also have these orange toyon berries, which will also cover our foam for us. These are the toyon berries. They come in red as well as orange. In the fall, they seem to be more orange. And then as it gets colder and the season goes on, they're more red. So I use it for Thanksgiving as well as Christmas. Toyon berries are very, very prolific in Northern California, where I am. So everywhere you go, you can see them growing wild. In fact, I have some growing wild in my creek area. This I purchased from the flower market because my toyon berries are not very full. I don't have a lot of berries. These are nicer because it's just in the wild area. It doesn't get any water. My sprinklers don't go all the way there. Go ahead and use some of that greenery too if it looks nice. It's sort of twiggy and natural looking, which isn't great. Okay. This is what I have on this side. We're going to try to repeat it on this side. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but you know, just add berries to both sides. Do you entertain for Thanksgiving? When my mother was alive, we used to have about 30 people over to our house for Thanksgiving. We would collect all the single people or people who are just two or students when I was in college. And everybody would be invited to our home for Thanksgiving. And my mother and I would cook. And now we go to my friend from my childhood friend's house for Thanksgiving. He and his partner are wonderful and host me and all my family for Thanksgiving every year. I just could keep adding berries. I'm going to see if I need to do any more. The berries are also sort of like a filler flower. We don't have a lot of filler flowers today. We've got mostly large flowers, what we call form flowers. Not a lot of filler. And you can also add fruits in here like persimmons, apples, grapes. That would be beautiful too. I love adding fruits to arrangements, especially at this time of year. And it's less expensive. You can always just buy some fruit or pumpkins, and then it adds space. It takes up space in your arrangement, and it's so appropriate for the time of year, right? Sort of like a harvest arrangement. Or if you want to go for one of those old masters paintings look, I did a video called Going for Baroque. You can look up a couple years ago where we did sort of a imitation of an old master's painting, but we did it with flowers. You know, those fruits and flowers arrangements that you see in museums. Okay, so we've got it greened in with plenty of berries. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of viburnum on this side. It's nice to have a turntable or something to elevate your arrangement off the table. That helps you create a nice cascading shape. Because when you'll see once we place this flat on the table, it'll sort of cascade onto the table and you won't see the container so much. So you don't have to buy a florist specific container like this. Any long, low container that's shallow and watertight will serve the same purpose. Okay, so we're done with the greening in part. I think we covered the foam pretty well. Let's start with the flowers. I have some beautiful Coxcomb Celosia today. This is one of my favorite flowers to use at this time of year because I love that velvety texture, and it comes in an assortment of colors, burgundy red, bright red, orange, I've seen peach, as well as green and yellow, but mostly in the red and red-orange family. I love the velvety texture. Okay. This is such a beautiful flower. I want to kind of feature it very prominently. So that's why I have here. I'm going to add some more to this arrangement. Now there are many kinds of Celosia. This is the Coxcomb Celosia. There's another kind that's also beautiful that look like feathers. They're sort of feathery and spiky looking. But today we have the Coxcomb Celosia. All right. That really, gives it a big pop, I think. And we have beautiful, luminous, apricot-y orange rimmed with red roses called Celosia, and a wonderful bright red rose called Freedom. These are my kind of go-to for the fall. I don't love yellows for fall. I like the orange and the reds and the burgundies, and sometimes even some eggplant purple. Sort of like the jewel tones and the rich colors. Not crazy about the yellows and that you often see like with pumpkins and things like that. Okay, so I have a grouping of roses right here in the middle to create sort of a lot of drama. Do that on this side too. Such good quality roses. I mean, they're just, both these roses are very, very long lasting. Kind of tell when a rose is long lasting by feeling the petals. Like these are kind of thick and velvety, and I just know they're going to last. Whereas some of the rose petals, if you touch them and they start bruising, you know that rose probably won't last very long. Just different types of roses too. Now, how you process and care for your cut flowers makes a difference, but a very big difference is the type of flower. I did a video recently where we talked about long-lasting flowers, how to process flowers properly, and we had an arrangement last for 16 days and counting. Because after the initial some of the flowers stopped looking perfect, what we did was take it apart and made smaller arrangements. So one bunch of flowers or an assortment of flowers you do for an arrangement, if you care for it properly and keep it watered, can last a long time. Okay, so we've got roses on both sides. I've got a lot of other flowers here. I have these beautiful golden mums. This is a beautiful mum that's sort of orange and yellow. Like the texture. I'm going to add some of this to the arrangement. I'm going to cut this a little shorter. You don't want the flowers on top here to be too tall because you want to be able to see your candles, right? You don't want that to come up too high and you don't see the candles. Some of these pretty peachy colored pom-pom mums. I've not seen this before. I quite like this kind of apricot-y color. Okay. This is another pom-pom mum, like a darker orange, like a burnt orange. I don't use mums often, but I think this time of year kind of calls for it, right? It's kind of appropriate for this time of year. You see how the pom-pom mums, you can use them individually or in the whole sprig. What I did was cut the sprig on the top off to use, and then we're going to use these side branches kind of individually in here. So this, I added a cluster of mums over here. We're going to go ahead and do it on this side as well. Now both sides, they don't have to be identical, but what I often do is just kind of do it on a diagonal. Like the roses are here on this side and are here on that side. You don't have to do it that way. If you like something a little bit more orderly, you can definitely do that. I like that technique where you do more grouping. It's a little more sophisticated when you have the groupings. And then when you have 3 roses grouped together, it's very impactful, right? Visually very impactful. There's so many different kinds of mums. There's a new one, I forgot what it's called, Ocean Mist or something like that. And it's actually like a periwinkle lavender. And it's not dyed or sprayed, it's natural. I showed in a video, I think maybe a year ago, just because I saw it and I just couldn't resist. Adding some of the terracotta colored pom-pom mums on this side. Love all these textures. The berries and the various foliage gives it a nice background for all the different flowers we're adding here. Okay, that's what we have so far. Okay, now I see some areas where we need to cover the foam up here. So what should we use to do that? Oh, I have this, which is beautiful. This is leucodendron in the Protea family. I love that it's almost black. I think this will be really, really interesting in here. Has sort of like a mysterious dark element to it. And the dark color really adds to the richness of this arrangement. Kind of unexpected, unusual, and exotic. It's a very long-lasting flower in the Protea family. It doesn't have the big showy flowers of some of the Protea. Protea has been very, very popular lately, and it's very expensive too. They sell it by the stem. Like the pincushion proteas, very beautiful, almost looks like a spider mum. And then you've got the giant proteas too. Okay, that's what we have after adding some of these dark elements to our arrangement. I'm going to go ahead and add some on this side as well. Add some to the ends of the arrangement too. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stand back and kind of assess the arrangement, see if we need to add anything else. I mean, we have to make sure all the foam is covered. I think I might add a couple of roses to the to this arrangement on the end here, because you don't want people sitting at the end not to have beautiful flowers, right? Okay. Okay, we add some red roses on the end. Maybe another red rose over here. Okay, added a red rose over here. I think that looks great. Okay, now for the finishing touches. Since the space is kind of small here, we're probably just going to add some greenery or maybe individual little mums there, because we don't have space for like large roses. I'm trying to see if we can add these on the ends. There's like these tiny little spaces here where the foam is showing. I'm just going to cut the bottom florets of the mums and just kind of pave it onto the foam so that we don't see it. Okay. We still have a whole stem to use, and that's one of the tricks we do. You can use the side shoots on the bottom for work like that, and then you still have the whole stem here, because we just need a little bit here and there, right, to cover our foam. We can also use this little terracotta one to do that. Cut some off, and we still have a big stem left to use. Cutting the mums really short so that we can sink it down deep on the foam to cover it. Okay. Then we can also add a little bit of greenery. Maybe I should have added the greenery before I added the mums. So now it's covering it. There we go. Okay, I'm just looking down on it, make sure we're not seeing a lot of foam. Seeing a little bit under the vase, but that's okay because we're going to fill the vase with water and candles. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think we're all covered. Our foam's all covered. I'm just looking down low to make sure that we've covered the plastic tray. Okay, we're all done with the flower part, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the candles. Okay, so we filled our cylinder vases with water. Now, if it bothers you, you can see the foam underneath the vase. You can't really see it much because the water kind of distorts it, but I'm going to show you a little trick. You can just cut some large leaves. Just cut some leaves that are really flat, like the viburnum's perfect, and just put it right on the foam. And that way, your vase will sit right on top of it, and anybody who's looking down on it is not going to see the foam. Just a little trick to cover the foam, but without making the foam like not flat, right? Because you need it flat for this. Okay, so we've got the cylinder vases filled with water. Now, definitely you could use cylinder candles in here and not do the water. But as a person who has spent many, many hours of my life scraping wax out of cylinder vases, I prefer floating candles. Now, these are a little novelty you can add to your table that's really cute. These are submersible fairy lights. You can get them on Amazon. They're maybe like $1 a piece, and they're submersible. This one I have is in the natural white. You can have it flashing slowly, or still. I think the flashing is a little bit much, right? And a little bit tacky to have it flashing on your table, driving your guests crazy. So you have these little fairy lights that and make sure you buy the submersible kind if you want to put it in the water. This one I have is submersible, and it always takes forever to untangle them. I'm just going to stuff this in here. Okay, we're just going to pop these in here just for a little added interest. I think adding the fairy lights makes it really festive and fun, and they'll show up much better in a low light situation. And then we're going to top these with gold floating candles. And just light the candles right before you serve dinner. And that way you have two sources of light, and it's more interesting than just looking at the water, right? So here is all done, our long and low classic centerpiece for Thanksgiving. For our second arrangement, it's a classic round arrangement. Now, this arrangement is for if you have a long rectangular table for Thanksgiving, but many people have a round table or even a square table. So a round arrangement is more appropriate. So it's not an earth-shattering kind of design, but I just wanted to show you a nice round arrangement. What I have here is a gold urn. You don't have to use gold. You can use whatever you like. I sort of like the urn shape to have it elevated off the table, and that way you can have it kind of cascade. And I just greened in earlier with some potassium to cover the foam. It's about 2/3 block of oasis in here. And this arrangement you can make a little earlier ahead of time because it is in a vessel that holds a lot of water, so your foam will be submerged. Whereas that, half your foam is not submerged and it's exposed. So that's sort of the difference. And that won't last as long as this arrangement. And so I'm just going to now add the accent greenery, which is our viburnum, to this arrangement. And you don't want a boring, roundy-moundy arrangement. So you could have something coming out of it like this beautiful stem. And it doesn't have to be totally symmetrical, right? Okay. See how beautiful the viburnum is? It adds so much to your arrangement. So those of you who don't have viburnum in your garden, definitely grow some. It rewards you in the spring with giant snowball stems, which are amazing in arrangements. And in the fall, the foliage is beautiful. So often I just look at my material to determine how we're going to use it. Like, where does the stem want to be? Okay, we've added in our greenery, and on purpose I made it kind of asymmetrical and kind of wild looking because I don't want this to be, you know, the typical round arrangement. Looks like you're painting by numbers, right? I think these arrangements that have a little more design and style to them are much more charming. Done my share of these roundy moundy arrangements for weddings that are, you know, all symmetrical. We would just, you know, have a set number of hydrangeas, roses, and call it a day. Add some of these berries to it. Okay. So just going for balance, not perfect symmetry. I know I say it in every video, but it takes a while to learn that because our instincts to make everything kind of you know, to be the same on each side. Okay, so we add our berries in. Let's go ahead and add some flowers. Let's go ahead and add some roses. I'm just going to use the same flowers that I used for the other arrangement. The roses, the celosia. Here's a beautiful celosia right there. I think the celosia is especially gorgeous with the viburnum. That lime green really sets off that burgundy red. Just spectacular. Do we have space for another celosia? Yeah, maybe a slightly smaller one next to the roses. Here we go. I've never grown celosia. Has anyone grown celosia? Maybe I should try. Because often when you buy celosia in the fall, they'll come with seeds. Notice like seeds come falling out of them. Okay. Right, and then we'll add some of our orange mums. Okay. How about another red rose? Just pulling off the guard petals. Sometimes the outer petals of the rose are a different color and they're not as perfect. I'm going to add another of the orange mums. These mums come netted so that the heads don't shatter. Okay. Okay, what else? How about some of this leucodendron? See, these round arrangements are easy, and when you don't have to cover so much foam, the arrangement comes together so much faster. Of course, it's always important as a florist, floral designer, or home designer to know how to create the classic round centerpiece, right? This you can use for so many different things. Okay, I think we're mostly done. Do we add another stem of this mum here? Maybe a smaller stem here. Okay. Then here you have it, a classic round centerpiece for your Thanksgiving table. So we're all ready for Thanksgiving. Table is all set, candles are lit. Where's the turkey? I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something. These two classic centerpiece design styles can be used for a lot of different occasions to just swap out the fall colors for Christmas or even a wedding. If you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful, please like and subscribe and click the little bell to be notified when I put out a new video. For those of you who've been with me from the beginning and who comment each week, I look forward, as always, to your comments. Let me know what you're doing for Thanksgiving this year. I've opened the community section of my YouTube channel, and you guys have been sharing incredible arrangements with all of us. So show us what you did for your Thanksgiving centerpiece this year. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and I will see you in my next video.